Hi there. There was a shocking story in the newspaper this weekend. It was about a vicar in Hampshire, and he went into a primary school to give a talk to the year 6 children about the birth of Jesus. So far, so uncontroversial. However, the headlines this weekend were not talking about the brilliant assembly he gave. No. He was held up by one paper as the vicar who ruined Christmas after he gave a somewhat misjudged talk to the class of 10-year-olds. Having started on the story of the Nativity, he moved on to talk about Father Christmas. And here is where it all went wrong. One of the children in the assembly said to the paper that the vicar told the class that, "You're all year 6. Now let's be real. Santa isn't real." Now everyone here at Prior Park knows that this is wrong. Of course, Santa, Father Christmas, or whatever you want to call him, is real. If he wasn't real, then how else would all those presents get delivered to all those young people around the world? We all know that the elves are working 364 days a year to make those presents. We all know that the reindeer pull Father Christmas's sleigh. And we all know, don't we, that those reindeer used to be bullies. They used to pick on the one reindeer that was different. They used to laugh and call him names, and they'd exclude him. They wouldn't let him join in any reindeer games. Fortunately, we know that they learned the error of their ways on that famous foggy Christmas Eve, when that reindeer Rudolph and his red nose saved the big day for every child around the world by lighting the way for Santa's sleigh. Now, stop. Wait just 1 minute. That bit isn't actually real. Whilst Father Christmas is obviously real, I'm afraid Rudolph was a later invention. It's a great story, but it's one that was written as a marketing tool for a US department store. It was written to sell toys to young people at Christmas. Rudolph didn't exist before 1939. 85 years later, though, the most famous reindeer of them all is part of every primary school child's understanding of how Father Christmas gets the job done. And so Rudolph is real to millions. So something designed to make money has gone on to make children happy. That can only be a good thing. Now, when the teachers at the school apologised for the vicar saying that Santa wasn't real, they said something that I thought was quite interesting. They wrote to the parents and they said, all stories and legends around Christmas are of equal weight, and said that your own family beliefs are just as valid as the Christian Christmas story. Now, I think that whilst they were correct to say sorry, they were wrong that all Christmas stories are somehow as valid as each other. The story of Rudolph, as we've just found out, clearly isn't. It might be joyous, it might be fun, it might teach us all a lesson about being nice and not bullying someone, particularly when they've got a massive shiny red nose. However, does that make it of equal value as the belief that underpins the whole festival of Christmas? I don't think it does. When we come down to it, there is only one original Christmas story. The clue is in the name, Christmas. It is literally Christ's Mass. The whole celebration and festival come from the Mass to celebrate Christ's birth. Other stories and legends might pop up along the way or get added in, and they might be lovely, but they're not as valid as the reason for Christmas's very existence. This whole feast exists to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ in a stable 2,000 odd years ago. Now, we might want to ask then, why are we celebrating that? What does it mean? Is it still relevant today? Maybe A Christmas Carol might have the answer. God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay, for Jesus Christ our Saviour was born upon this day, to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. To my mind, Christmas exists to celebrate that Jesus Christ was sent to save the world. Now, for Christians, that is an essential truth. Christ was sent to save humanity. However, I do wonder how many people today believe that. In this country, for the first time in over a millennium, fewer than half of the UK population say that they are Christian. That's a huge shift from even 20 years ago. So given that Christmas is a Christian festival, why do we still celebrate it? Well, there's a few reasons, aren't there? It's nice to get together with family, sometimes. It's nice to give and to receive presents. It's nice to sing carols. It's nice to eat really good food when it's a bit cold and miserable outside. It is essentially fun to party. And it feels a little that, for many, that's what Christmas now is, a party. Now, any good party, as we all know, involves music. And Christmas parties in the past were certainly more religious, but they were still celebrations. They had carols as their music. And today, we have the joys of the Christmas song. You know, the ones that they started playing in the shops in early November. There are loads of very famous and very popular Christmas songs. Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. Bing Crosby's White Christmas. Wham's Last Christmas. They are all absolute bangers. And they immediately make you feel Christmassy. They are all also relatively uncontroversial. However, the most sold Christmas song in UK history is also one of the few Christmas songs that divides opinion, and today gets some people upset. And there won't be snow in Africa this Christmas time. The greatest gift they'll get this year is life. Oh, when nothing ever grows, no rain or rivers flow. Well, do they know it's Christmas time at all? Despite how badly I just butchered that, I hope that most people will recognise those lyrics as coming from Do They Know It's Christmas, recorded by Band Aid in 1984. This charity single is the only Christmas hit to sell over 3 million records in this country at the time it was released. It was re-recorded several more times, and it reached a number one spot in 1984, 1989, 2004 and 2014. It is a huge global hit. It was recorded in response to a famine in Ethiopia, and on the BBC's 9 o'clock news in October 1984, the journalist Michael Burke delivered a report on the Ethiopian famine. The famine was vast, and millions of people were starving. The news report shocked the country. The singers Bob Geldof and Midge Ure, who were big names in the 80s, decided to do something. They got 40 of the biggest pop stars in the world to record a song they wrote, and all of the profits from that song went to help the suffering and starving population of Ethiopia. It raised nearly $25 million in that year, and all of the money went to feed the starving and the hungry people of Ethiopia. Now, the list of artists who've been involved in one or other of the versions of Band Aid is now enormous. Young people today are probably most likely to know One Direction, Ellie Goulding, Coldplay, or Ed Sheeran, all of whom have contributed to one of the Band Aids in the past. The last one of those, though, Ed Sheeran, took exception when his vocals were used in a re-release of the song this year. Ed said that he would not have given permission for his vocals to be used because his understanding of the narrative associated with Band Aid had changed. He reposted some thoughts from a British Ghanaian rapper, Fuse ODG, who stated that Band Aid was guilty of perpetuating damaging stereotypes that stifle Africa's economic growth, which cost the continent trillions. Now, others who have been associated with Band Aid weighed in at that point and said that people who took issue with the track were busybodies, woke people, and do-gooders who know everything, telling them to get out and do something. It all got, frankly, a little bit undignified. Now, I've been thinking about this row and what it tells us about Christmas now in 2024. There's certainly a lot about the original lyrics of the song which is just not true. Even in those 4 short lines I attempted to sing earlier, there are some gross exaggerations. There was snow in Africa in 1984, and there's always been snow in Africa. The idea that nothing ever grows, or no rain or rivers flow, it wasn't true then, it's not true now. Asking the question, do they know it's Christmas time at all, about Ethiopians, might be taken as a little strange. Ethiopia was a Christian country from the 4th century AD, and it was one of the first regions in the world to become Christian. They probably did know that it was Christmas. However, it's a song. It's not meant to be taken literally, and it was meant to convey a message that people in Ethiopia were dying by the thousand every day. And it did that brilliantly. It was a song designed to save lives, and it did that. People in Britain had seen news reports about the famine before, and none of those reports led to tens of millions of pounds, and eventually hundreds of millions of pounds being raised to help the suffering stop and to stop people from dying. The idea that this song perpetuates damaging stereotypes about the vibrant and diverse continent of Africa may well be true. However, it saved lives. And surely we can simply celebrate that fact rather than agonise about how our attitudes today may not chime exactly with the messages of a pop song from 1984 that is still played daily on every radio station during the Christmas period. The song, Do They Know It's Christmas, is, I think, the most proper Christmas song ever. That's not because I've heard it every Christmas for as long as I can remember, but because I think that it is a song which takes the essential, original meaning of Christmas and continues to bring it to people today. It is not just a song about saving people. It's a song which actually did save people. It's a song that comes out of a very Christian understanding of Christmas. The singer of the band U2, Bono, said the song is a hymn, really, and he's right. It's a hymn to the suffering people of Ethiopia, and it brought that suffering onto the radio and into the homes of millions of British people who chose to try and save their fellow humans. The reason that they did that is the question that we need to consider. Why did they try and help? Why did they try and feed the world? Well, it could be because it's a brilliant song, and everyone brought it just because it's a tune. However, it's not that good a tune. It probably isn't a better song than Last Christmas, which it forced into the number 2 spot back in 1984. No, the reason that people bought it is for the same reason that Wham, who sang Last Christmas, donated all the money they made from their song to the charity appeal that Band Aid was for. They did it out of love. They wanted to help people who needed help. And that isn't necessarily a human instinct. It's a learned instinct. It's an instinct that comes from the Christmas message of salvation. Now, earlier I said that Christians believe that Christ came to save the world from evil. Jesus preached a message of peace and love, which was entirely revolutionary in its time. It took a world based upon power and it turned it on its head. In the Christian conception of the world, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. This hasn't gone away. For the last 5 years, the UK's Christmas #1 song has been performed by the artist Lad Baby, and it's been a charity song. These songs are awful, but all the money they raise goes to charity, and so they still sell by the bucket load. Today, in the apparently non-Christian country that the UK is, we still seem to hold to that Christian message of caring for the neediest in our society. Perhaps that's why Christmas will continue to be an important festival in our country. For some, like me, it will celebrate the birth of Jesus. For most, though, it's a time when those Christian messages of charity and love will still be displayed. Christians believe that Christ was sent to save the world. Perhaps the most amazing legacy of Christ's teaching, though, is that even though many people today don't necessarily believe he was the Son of God, they still follow his teachings. Our Western world and our Western Christmas is still deeply Christian, and that applies whether you're a Christian or not. Now, there's a line from an old film called The Usual Suspects from the mid-90s. The line says, "The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist." I wonder if the greatest trick that Jesus ever pulled was allowing the world to become convinced that he didn't matter, and yet for his message to survive nonetheless. Jesus was sent to save the world. Perhaps what his teachings have done over 2,000 years is to convince much of the world that it needs to save itself. We'll finish with a poem, which I think is also a prayer. Written by Christina Rossetti in 1895, it's often set to music, but it stands up well enough as an explanation of what Christmas really means. Love came down at Christmas, love all lovely, love divine. Love was born at Christmas, star and angels gave the sign. Worship we the Godhead, love incarnate, love divine. Worship we our Jesus, but wherewith for sacred sign. Love shall be our token, love be yours and love be mine. Love to God and all men, love for plea and gift and sign. Merry Christmas, everyone.